Hello everybody, this is Susan from Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have a quick card demonstration for you today. This is a card I'm doing with my group of stampers at what I call Pampered Stamper. This is a fun Z-fold card, and we're going to be using the Beautiful You stamp set from the spring catalog. And we're also going to be using our watercolor pencils for this card, and we're using designer series paper from the Moroccan paper that's in our annual catalog until the end of May. So let's just get to the demonstration. So our kit is like this, and our designer series paper on my sample I just showed you, I'm using this beautiful green print, and on the one I'm going to put together right now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to use this fun Moroccan print, and so we'll compare them side by side when we're done. So let's just get started. So this is a Z-fold card, so it's scored in half and then scored in half again. That's pretty simple. Then we're going to just tack down our designer series paper. So this one's just scaled down a little bit from my panel, and then I'm just putting this one on the inside, on the edge, to give it a little pop. Then I have a piece of Very Vanilla, and I'm placing this on the inside of the card, and I'm going to try to put it right here in the center. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make our front panel. So this is a piece of watercolor paper, and I'm using archival black ink, and I'm going to stamp this lovely lady on my paper, and I'm stamping her a little off to the left because I want to have room for my words to fit next to her. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and stamp my words, and words fit nicely right down here under the scoop of her dress. So I did that. Of course, you could always put the words on a tag if you wanted to, or do something different, but that's what I did for this. Okay, so now on the inside, I'm going to let that dry for a moment. I'm going to stamp Happy Birthday Gorgeous, because I think that's fun for a girlfriend, for a card. And I'm also putting that on the envelope. Now I usually stamp some sort of image on the envelope, but because this one has all large ladies, it's a little weird to put that on the envelope, so I just did the words to put something on there, but nothing over the top. Okay, so let's go back to this one now. So I'm using Pacific Point and Bermuda Bay for my two watercolor pencils. And I'm using a spritzer with some water in it. We sell these as a 2-pack, and you can put rubbing alcohol in it, water in it. You could add a little ink to it to make a little ink solution, but we're just using plain water today. So this is watercolor paper, and when I spritz it with water, it's going to activate the fibers in the paper. By activating the fibers in the paper and getting it moist to start with, when I use my watercolor pencil on it, it's going to melt the tip of my pencil down and smooth out real nicely. But I have to work quickly. So if I don't talk too much in the next few seconds, you'll understand why. So here I go. A couple of spritzes. I'm going to start with the dark, bright Pacific Point. And do you see how that water just kind of is pooling and melting that pencil? And believe it or not, my paper is already starting to dry a bit. And you can see my colors kind of pooling out a little bit. And I'm going to use the other shade and get some color on the other part there. So, and I'm not pressing very heavily. Okay, so there's that blue. Then I'm going to go ahead and put some blue down here where looks like she's standing at the beach in the water. Okay, so that's going to take a few seconds to dry, and you're going to see that my paper is going to want to fold up a little bit, but when we adhere that to its mount, it's going to be just fine. So, and if you have some extra on there and you don't want it to look like it's watercolored a whole lot, you can blot that with a tissue. But I'm going to go ahead and let that roll a little bit. Okay, so as that's drying, I'm going to look at the inside of my card. So as I said, these pencils, they kind of melt when they get wet, which is really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and take this swish that's in the set, and I'm going to spritz it with water. Can you see the water's on there? And then I'm taking my pencil and I'm going to color my stamp. And as I do that, that ink is getting right on that stamp. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little shading to my words on the inside. And yep, it's going to be a little bit juicy and runny, so you want to do it quickly. But I'm just going to go ahead and flip that over, stamp right over those words I already stamped, and it's going to create that smudge in there. But that's kind of fun, a little surprise on the inside when we get done here. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here. That's still a little bit more wet than I want, but I'm just going to flip it over and blot it on my paper to save a little time. Of course, when you're working on yours, you can just let it dry. Or you could heat set it with your heat tool. So I'm going to pop this up with dimensionals. Now, like I said, watercolor paper likes to bulge a little bit. So you certainly can snail it down. But at this moment I'm going to use dimensionals. So I just have a little bit of mount around the edges for this. And then when this goes on our card, we're just going to put it on this front flap. So I'm going to just put adhesive on the back of it right here. So I want to flip that over, take my snail, run it down just that one side. Then I just want to make sure I hide that inner panel, which the front one is bigger than the inside one, so that works out really well. And I just press that down. And that's it. That's as easy as it goes. So, like I said, I did this one a little bit different than the first one I showed you. So here's the one we just did, and then here's the one I showed you at the beginning. So it's the same paper, just reverse sides. And I put the bigger panel on the inside of this one, or I put the bigger panel on the front of that one. So it's your card. You can always change it up the way you want to. You can even see that the watercoloring on the two are very different. So I hope you've enjoyed. And you can always find all the instructions, my measurements, my materials on my blog at pumpkinhillstampers.com. And until next time, happy stamping!